Welcome to episode 16 of American Building Contractors Multifamily Insiders podcast. Our guest today is Kregg Hale, Senior Vice President for Sentry Management. Sentry is the third largest HOA management company in the country, has over 30 offices in 17 states, and calls Orlando, Florida its corporate home. Welcome, Kregg. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, thanks, Wayne. It's really an honor for me to participate in this, and I appreciate the invite. Just a little bit, I think, that might be relevant to perhaps your audience. You know, I look at my life, and I somewhat divide it up a little bit into the roles that I have, and that helps me to understand kind of priorities and how I live my life. I'm a family member. I have 5 children. I joke that they're all boys except 4. Right? So we were pretty good at making girls, is kind of what I'm saying.
Right.
And then I'm an employee. Certainly, I work for a great company, and then I have church responsibilities and things like that. I'm a fairly religious guy, and so that is kind of my world of life. Probably my biggest pride today is that I have 8 grandchildren, soon to be 9, which is interesting for me. Is they're mostly boys, so all of a sudden my family's getting more to the side of males as opposed to females.
Right.
It's been a lot of fun. Right. It's been an interesting journey to watch my children have kids. It's a lot of fun. I've been in this industry for about 15 years, I think, all told, somewhere in that range. And my role at Sentry is I'm responsible for acquisitions. I'm also responsible for employee engagement, specifically around training and just the overall employee experience. I'm responsible for all the training and development that we do for boards. I lead the projects that we have, unless they're technology, and we have our technology guy do that. And then one of the things that I really enjoy doing is our leadership development program. We run anywhere between 10 and 15 people through our leadership development every year. We're on our fourth class, and that's been a great experience so far for me. And on the outside, just for the fun side of my life, I really enjoy sports, although they don't exist currently as much as I would like. I read a bunch, because you're a road warrior like I am, and so you tend to read a lot when you're on airplanes. And I normally don't tell too many people this, but I'm a closet drummer. I grew up playing the drums, and that's something I enjoy doing. That's a little bit about me.
So now we're faced with a different world. I know that as a company that has the majority of their offices in Florida, you're certainly no stranger to disasters, particularly on the hurricane side. So it's probably one thing to lead disaster planning for your staff, your boards, the folks, the homeowners, everybody that you deal with, okay? But then all of a sudden there comes this pandemic. What happened on your end? How did you address it, and what steps are you taking to ensure the safety of the homeowners?
And I think you're right, Wayne, that even though it had a more urgent feel to it in terms of response times and things that we had to do quickly, it had the look and feel, really, of your typical disaster, that we deal with all the time with hurricanes and tornadoes in some of our offices and so
right.
on. And it's. I will tell you, the one thing that we really work hard at doing as a senior team with Sentry is we are always looking at the outside forces and what those impacts could be on our business. So, for example, I pay a lot of attention to legislative activities. That's in my world of responsibility as well. So I'm paying attention to any legislation that could have a negative impact on us as a company, and certainly to our boards and our associations. We look at any economic drivers that could happen. We watch home sales. We watch the real estate market. All those things that could have an impact on our business, we're constantly monitoring those. So this was another one of those things that we can't control. It's certainly nothing that we could do anything about. The pandemic came, and so we focused on the things that we could control. What can we control about that? Certainly our attitude, being optimistic, being realistic, and taking the steps necessary to protect everybody. But it wasn't a whole lot of different than what we are always watching and paying attention to anyway. It's just part of I think our style as a company. And we're always trying to be proactive in our views and staying ahead of the curve. But again, the key thing was how do you manage that effectively, and what do you do? And you know that nobody likes change, and there were some interesting changes here that people went through, and not everybody has adapted really well. And so this is where the stability of leaders and a good attitude, being present with our people, being empathetic to situations that are different today than they used to be, and being very optimistic was really critical during this time. So, but we took the typical steps that I think everybody did. We followed the guidelines that were put out by the government. We certainly closed down offices as necessary with skeleton crews just to accomplish the typical tasks that have to happen, like getting the mail, opening the mail, and distributing that. But we did that on a minimal crew. We mobilized everybody as quickly as possible, and all of our managers have the capability to work from home already. We didn't have to do anything differently for our managers and the people out in the field. We did have to do a few different things in the home office because we don't typically work from home there where we do the accounting and some of the back office things. But we took the steps there too. You distance people physically, you spread them out across the office. So we did those things. A couple things that we did that I thought were really valuable to us is every one of our managers has a go-to-meeting license. So they are able to use that for any communication, whether it's with homeowners, boards, setting up board meetings, and so on. So I thought that was pretty helpful to them. They have the ability to use their office phone from any mobile device. So we did a lot of those things that were required to allow them to be effective at home, gave them the tools necessary so that they could function well there. Not everybody knows how to do that well, and you're a remote worker, and I have been a lot of my career,
right?
And we kind of get how to do that. Not everybody's equipped for that. They miss the social interaction, so we've done a lot of other things to help with that, and whether it's we're using Microsoft Teams as our choice of connecting, so we can instant message people, we can have video calls among our team, and it helps us to work a lot more efficiently together. But the other side of that was, how did we communicate all this? I went back and just checked to see how many communications we've done with homeowners, boards, employees. It's well over 50.
Okay.
In some fashion of communication. And the other tricky thing here, I think, as part of leaders, is understanding where people are in their cycle of understanding, because this makes a difference in how you communicate. And the same thing with boards and our homeowners. Everybody's kind of in a different spot. They look at the things happening, and it's a lot like, change is a lot like death. So they look at this, and
that's for sure.
It is. You
know.
Go through the cycles. You go through, right? You think about it. You go through a betrayal. You go through a denial phase. You go through some kind of identity crisis.
Right.
You do.
Right.
Right. We all do. And how we handle that is really different. Some people go through that quickly, say, I got it, I understand it, now let's figure out how to make this work. Other people, they go through a little more of a grieving process, and it's hard for them. So from a communication, from the leadership, we need to understand where people are and communicate at that point, where people are. So, for example, if I'm in that betrayal stage, I want details. I want to know why. So when we're saying we're closing down the office, we're moving to this type of work environment, we're going to start doing meetings online, people need to understand the why of those changes and how, so it makes sense to them. Because if we start with a rah-rah speech and how great it's going to be, they can't grasp that message. They need to go through the understanding piece first. So I think that's been a big piece of the leadership that's required in any kind of a situation like this that requires change to the standard and the norm, is how we communicate effectively with people.
How does a leader weed through the processes that you had described regarding, the example of like death, the grieving process that people go through? It seems to me leaders have a unique ability to get their message across in a way, regardless of the cycles and stages that you were talking about. Leaders are still able to do that. Regardless of the situation and the circumstances. Is that something that you think is something that can be learned? Is it something you've accumulated throughout the years as a part of your personality? Because it seems like your executive team and the folks that I've met, you guys are all on the same page. I mean, you have a very remarkable leadership team at Sentry.
Well, thanks, Wayne. I really appreciate that compliment. I think that I will tell you, we have a great leader in Brad, and
yep.
I think I've shared with you probably in the course of our time together over the last couple of years. that he's one of the best that I've worked with in my career. But over the years, you learn a lot about how to handle these types of situations as you go through it over the course of the years. I've had I had a great education. I've had some great mentors over the years, great leadership. I read a lot. I study a lot. And I think that our leadership has been that same way. We've watched webinars together. We've learned together. We've tried to understand how can we effectively do these things. We had that annual leadership conference where we bring all our leaders together, and we talk about these concepts about how to communicate effectively and how to lead people right and how to have difficult conversations. And you have to have difficult conversations, because I think that's one of the critical skills. I was thinking about going back to my college life and thinking about my business communications course when I was in graduate school.
Okay.
Probably one of the best courses I ever took, along with organizational behavior. Those are the ones that I think really apply to me. So when you look at the things that our teams are expecting from us now, it is a different form of listening that I think is required right now. People are looking for empathetic listening, where we understand situations, because all of a sudden people are faced with melding together their home life and their work life. And a lot of people aren't used to that. So all of a sudden they're around loved ones all the time. They have kids tugging at their legs, pets that want attention. And we normally haven't had to have done that in the workforce. So as long as we exercise the empathy necessary there to understand a person's position and understand that their workday may be different than we are used to. And so for me, I look at my team and what I'm concerned about is I'm interested in results. Results really is the job that we're asked to attend to. And if we focus on that, how we get there can be really flexible. You're going to find people out there that are working. They're getting up at 5 a.m. and working until 7:30 until their children get up, and then they're feeding their kids and they're teaching them math and science and English until 10, and then from 10 to 12 they're working, and then they're feeding their kids and getting them down for that. Their day is just completely different than going into the office working 8 to 5. We need to understand that and be empathetic to that, and as we do, people respond real well, I think, to that type of leadership and understanding that their workday may be different, but if they're accomplishing the objectives and being productive in their day, I don't know that it matters the hours that they put in. Right? I think that it's really all about the results that they achieve. What do
you think comes out on the other side of this? As far as what it would look like from working remotely, perhaps, where everybody is to business partner relations with the desire on my end to be in anybody wearing a Sentry shirt, to be in their presence, whether it's at a golf outing, whether it's at some event. What do you think that looks like?
I wish I had that crystal ball, and I'm sure everybody does. But I think some of the things we're learning is that the traditional way of working is going to be challenged. I think that this situation may go a little longer than we thought. So I think that we're going to really examine the way the work gets done, and because we're finding this actually fairly successul. Now, we've been doing a little bit of this anyway, just they're trying to experiment with this over the years, because I looked at it and I said, what is you and I have talked about this before, about the Wayne Gretzky quote, where somebody asked Wayne Gretzky, why are you such a great hockey player? And he said that he skated to where the puck is going to be, not where it is.
Yes, exactly.
And so we're always looking at, well, what's the board meeting of the future going to look like? As the demographics of a board start to change, what does that look like? And so we had to be ahead of that game a little bit and start looking at how technology could be effectively used. Because I think more and more board members are going to say, well, one, they're going to say, I like this. I can have a meeting during my lunch hour, or I can have it before work in the morning, or I can do it from the convenience of my home. And we're being more efficient. We're getting the work done. And I think a lot of people are going to say, this is pretty cool. And a lot of our boards are saying, we're much more efficient in our meetings today. We're not talking over each other. We're just getting down to the things that are important, and they're doing it in a shorter window of time, and they're finding that they don't have to meet as regularly because of that. Now, a lot of that hinges on our ability to communicate effectively. So we spend a lot of time with our teams making sure that they're communicating well and regularly with the boards, checking in regularly on how things are going, what can be done differently. But I think that that's going to be challenged. I think that you're going to start looking at that. I think the boards are going to be comfortable meeting that way. I think that we're going to look at how can we more effectively work from home. I think that we're going to take a good hard look at office space going forward. And do we need all the office space that we traditionally have had? Can this be a more of a norm? Can we hotel employees when they do need to come in? We just have a spot where they work. So I think you're going to see a lot of that going forward. There's going to be, I don't think coming out of it, it's going to be a full reversal of the mobilization that we've already done. I think that it might be gradual, but I don't think it's going to go all the way back to where it was. I think more and more people are liking this situation a little bit. And certainly we have to adapt a little bit. We have to train differently. We have to communicate differently. We have to use the tools available to us. And as you know, there's a lot of folks aren't going to adapt to technology, and they're not going to like it. That's just not how they operate. So they'll want to continue on the face-to-face, and there'll be an opportunity for that.
What do you particularly see regarding? So we have a couple events coming up that hopefully are still going to be on that I'm pretty sure I'm going to see you at. Do you see anything like that scaling back, or do you still think things like that are going to be vital to just having good all around relationships with, people like me, people like you, people that we
Sure.
do like to see in person?
I don't know that those will change. I think that certainly big groups like that are going to have to be examined in the time of when those
right.
start occurring again, right? I think that's because it is a pretty packed. You think about the trade show booths are pretty packed in. The sessions, we're sitting right next to each other. Is that going to have to examine and look at? Or are we going to be ready to jump in July? I don't know. I personally am getting more comfortable with getting out and about a little bit. I think that we have to really be protective of the people who are more susceptible to the viruses. But I've been doing that for a long time because I didn't want to get just the regular flu. I was doing
Exactly.
Well, you get on planes like I do. And
I know.
In the outside pocket of my suitcase, I have the antiseptic wipes, and I'm wiping down the armrest and the table and so on in front of me. I've been doing that for a long time just because I didn't want to get the traditional flu. But boy, when you start talking about big groups, it's going to be tricky, I think, Wayne. I'm interested to see if those are held or if they get postponed. Even events like you start, I think I've told you that one of the things I do every year is I try to volunteer at a golf tournament with my son.
Yep, I remember that.
This year, so this year we got the luck of the draw, and so we're volunteering at the Ryder Cup that's going to be held in Wisconsin in September. And there's even question now on whether or not they're going to have fans for the Ryder Cup, which I think would be a disaster because that's what fuels that tournament. So I think every big group outing for the next several months is going to have to be questioned. I just think that people are going to be, there's going to be 50% of the people are going to be comfortable with going and associated and affiliated. There's going to be 50% of people who aren't. I think we've got to protect the health and welfare of our people in this industry, even though we're considered essential. We really still have to protect that, and it'll be interesting. I hope that we're able to have those events, Wayne, because I'm like you. I enjoy that interaction. I really thoroughly enjoy meeting with vendors at the conference. I like meeting with my peers. I think those are always great educational events and networking events. So I'm hoping that they continue, but I think there's a big question mark for me.
Yeah, and the people that I have been talking to and asking these questions, leaders like you, I mean, everybody from owners, executives to people on my side, on the business partner side, they're all saying the same thing is really they don't know. So you know what? I'm going to be the one that's going to make this big predictions. I think at first you're not going to see a lot of people out there. Okay. And then I think people are going to kind of put the toe in the water. They're going to kind of come back. But I think it's going to take, I'm going to say minimum 2 to 3 years, perhaps we can get back to where we were before. It's yes.
I think you're right. I think that there's going to be just a real large population that just is going to err on the side of caution.
Yep.
And rightly so.
Absolutely.
So I think that these organizations are going to look at conventions and large scale meetings like that, and they're just going to say, you know what, this year let's just not do it this year. Let's pick it up again next year. That would not surprise me because I think this is still a concern, and so I think that it's going to have to carry out a little farther than a lot of people are expecting. And I agree with you. I think that the attendance would be significantly down because people are going to err on the side of caution. I would probably go if it were in July, but I got to tell you, I'd want to keep a reasonable distance.
I know.
I'd want to take the necessary precautions because I don't particularly like being sick.
No, I don't either, man. I'm 54 years old, and that's the average age when someone gets this thing. Okay, so I'm pretty aware of that.
You're just a kid.
Oh, whatever, man. Whatever. You're so kind. I got to tell you, like I said, Kregg, I know you're busy. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for everything that you've done for our industry and the leadership that you provide. And hopefully with a couple breaks coming up here, I will be seeing you at some of these events that we had talked about. Probably not going to be shaking your hand, so we'll make sure we're properly socially distant. But I'm sure we'll be talking and catching up.
I'm quite okay with that. Well, the good news is, Wayne, that the golf courses aren't closed, right? So we can at least get out and maybe hit a ball around, right?
Well, and for sure. And just speaking of that, are you going to be having your your annual golf outing this year?
Well, as far as we know, it's still scheduled, I believe, in October. We've reserved the course certainly for it, and I hope we can have it. It was a great event last year, as you know. We raised $30,000 for charity, which was an outstanding thing. So I'm hoping that we can still continue with that.
Yeah, I enjoyed meeting so many more people within your company. You definitely provided a great venue and were a gracious host to all of us.
And I'll have to say for you, we this is kind of fun for us, and I'll save a bottle just for you, Wayne. But we sent out 10,000 bottles of hand sanitizer with our label, personalized label on them. We sent these out to all of our divisions to give out to boards and homeowners. So I'll save you a bottle of hand sanitizer when you come.
I would love that. You're bearing gifts. What a guy. Thank you very much,
That's right.
Kregg.
I'm happy to do it.
We'll be catching up soon, sir. Thank you again for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Wayne, for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right, Kregg.